This video was made possible thanks to the EA Creator Network. Thank you to EA for providing me with a copy of the pack early. Quickly, before we jump into the video, I just wanted to let you guys know that you can still use my creator code on the EA app when you're buying your Sims packs. When you use my code, it helps support me and my channel alongside all the builds that I make, as I do earn a small commission fee from your purchase. A big thank you to everyone who has used my code so far. I appreciate you so much, and it is just so lovely to know that you thought of me when purchasing your Sims DLCs. But anyway, let's get into the video. Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the brand new world of Nordhaven or Nordhaven. Not too sure which one it is yet, it's one of the two, but it is the most recent world coming in the next expansion pack, which is yet to be released. It comes out next week and it is called The Sims 4 Businesses and Hobbies expansion pack. So this lot ends up having 2 bedrooms, 2 residential bathrooms and 2 customer bathrooms, and it's built on a 20 by 20 lot. There does also end up being a tattoo parlour, a pottery shop, a pottery workshop as well in the basement, alongside with an apartment. But this week I feel extremely grateful to be able to say that I got given early access to the next expansion pack that is coming out next week, like I just said, Sims 4 Businesses and Hobbies. And of course I just wanted to sit down and do a build basically showcasing all the new items that comes in this DLC. Now I do want to say that this version of the game that I'm running isn't final software, so if you see anything that might be different to, you know, like the version that gets launched, that is the reason why. The CFE version that I'm running, you see my name that's like bopping about on the screen, I didn't put that there. I'm not being weird, like that's just kind of like ingrained into the game. The way that early access works is the Sims team very kindly gave me like a second version of The Sims 4 that just has The Sims 4, the new expansion pack, and yeah, it just has my name bopping around. So I'm really sorry if the name tag is a bit annoying. Unfortunately, I can't do anything to prevent it, but yeah, I'm building with a new pack and I could not be more excited that we're finally getting multifunctional lots in the game. If you've watched my channel for a few years now, you know that I've been doing this in the game, in my builds, for the longest time, and the way that I previously approached having multiple different venues on one lot is build them to have all separate requirements, and then my idea is in gameplay you could easily just switch them out. But with the new expansion pack, we can have multiple different community lots that are functional, like people will actually come here, you know, say hello to your Sims and that, but your Sims can own them and live on top of them. Honestly, there is so many different possibilities, and I've got so many different ideas for future videos. Like your Sim, if they want to, they can own a little cafe and live on top of it. Or if you fancy, your Sims could own a gym and live on top of it. Or they could live separately. There is just so many different potential build opportunities with this new expansion pack, and I'm just so excited about it. But anyway, moving over from that and actually getting on and talking a little bit more about the build itself and also what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I've already built the whole main structure for this lot. The way that I tried to build it, I tried to give the idea that there was multiple different buildings just kind of clumped next to each other. It is just one building, but I tried to, the way, like doing like little bump outs here and there, I tried to give the visual effect of having multiple different like buildings. The red one over here with the little green door, this ends up being the entrance into the apartment. You walk in through the front door, got a lovely staircase, it's open to the second level, like it's got a nice little drop down section, and then on the upstairs we have a 2-storey apartment. The orange building ends up being the pottery shop, so your Sims can buy pottery, but then there does end up being a basement, which in the basement it ends up being like a pottery workshop, either a place for your Sims to take a pottery class, or if they fancy, they can teach one themselves. And then the building on the left hand side, the navy one, that ends up being the tattoo parlour. Currently I'm just coming in and figuring out the floor plan for these different venues. I have plonked down some items as kind of like a marker in my mind, so you would have seen I just plonked down like the tattooing bench, I placed down some like shelving units for the retail store. They were just purely so my mind could be like, alright, well that's going to be the tattoo bit, that's going to be, you know, the pottery retail section. And also you would have seen me make the basement already, the basement ends up being absolutely colossal. But when I was originally building it, I made it much smaller what I initially thought I was going to make it, because basically when I was building, I was thinking it'd be really lovely to have somewhere where your Sims, if they fancy, they could come and do a pottery class. Maybe it's a new hobby, a new skill that they want to take up. And initially I just made it so to access the pottery class, your Sims would have to walk into the pottery studio. But then when it came around to actually furnishing the exterior and doing kind of like the street portion, I was thinking, well, it might actually be quite nice if your Sims could access the pottery studio from outside and not necessarily have to walk into the pottery studio. I'm just thinking of, sometimes when you walk into a shop and you feel like you have to buy something so you don't feel suspicious. I was thinking that kind of thing. If your Sims don't want to buy any pottery, they're just coming for a pottery class, maybe they don't want to walk through the pottery studio. And so eventually, you'll see, I end up extending the basement and making it so it's kind of like a walk down basement from the pavement outside. And it also worked out really well as well, because I'm thinking for a pottery class, I haven't actually ever made pottery myself. I have been in like a pottery workshop. Sometimes when you can just go and paint pottery, I've done that, but there has also been sections where if you want to, you can try your hand at making it. But in the place that I've been to before, they had like this massive wall full of windows letting in so much natural daylight, and I'm thinking, to be fair, if you're doing something like pottery, which is quite wholesome, you might want to have a little bit of natural daylight. So then with doing the open basement, kind of like the walk down, I was then able to put a front door, which had like a little window, but then also next to the front door, there was also a second window. So it's not like a really dark, stingy basement. I couldn't put the pottery class on the upper level because there purely wasn't enough space for it. And in this build, I wanted you to have access to all of the different gameplay features basically that comes in the new expansion pack. I want your Sims to be able to, if they want to, buy it and sell pottery, but then also if they want to make it themselves. And so yeah, there ends up being loads of different pottery wheels, and then little, I think they're called like a kiln. It's basically like a bit of an oven for your pottery, and it cooks it, or no, it doesn't cook it, but it makes it stone, clay. It makes it hard, and it won't break hopefully unless you drop it. But yeah, I wanted to have enough space for all of it, and so I put it in the basement, and then yeah, I added in a little front door and then a window, so then there is some natural daylight. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I'm now coming in and adding in some details onto the street view. Now when it came around to building this, I feel very lucky, and honestly the timing could not be more perfect, because I had quite a lot of inspiration for this one, because I believe this brand new world of Nordhaven, I'm not too sure. I've heard different versions of it. People are saying different things depending on where they live in the world. I just haven't heard anyone with my accent say it yet. But in this brand new world, I believe it's based off potentially Sweden and like Scandi countries. In January, I went to Stockholm, which, can I just say, is one of the coolest cities that I have ever been to. I'm quite fortunate to say that I've been there twice, and the reason why I went back is purely because I loved it so much the first time. The first time I visited Stockholm, I think was around 2015, 2016, that kind of time period. And I went with my family. And literally for years after that, I kept on saying to my boyfriend, I want to take you to Stockholm because I knew he would love it. And yeah, this year we finally went. And when it came around to doing this build, and I found out that this brand new world was kind of potentially based off Sweden and Stockholm, I just basically went into my camera roll and used the pictures that I had taken myself as the reference point for these buildings. Now, I don't know if you've ever been yourself, but the city of Stockholm has kind of like an old town period, which is called, and I really hope I pronounced it correctly, Galmastan. And in Galmastan, it's got more like heritage looking buildings, absolutely beautiful. And can I just say, if a Sims team did base this brand new world off Stockholm, they did an excellent job, because honestly, looking at the surroundings, I just feel like I'm back in Galmastan, I feel like I'm just getting a pastry and a coffee and stuff, which is quite a big thing in Stockholm, and so I made a few references to that in this build. But yeah, when I was doing this build, I was looking back onto my photos that I'd taken, and this one day we spent quite a lot of time in kind of like this section of Stockholm, which has these two kind of like iconic buildings. Don't know what they used to be. Sorry, I'm a little bit uneducated in that department, but don't know what they used to be. I know for a fact now the red one, because I probably would have already popped a picture of them on the screen, but the red one now is a sandwich shop or a restaurant. Does a really good sandwich, about the size of your hand, and it's only a couple of quid, so very good value for money. But they're kind of like these iconic buildings in Stockholm, and so when it came around to doing this build, I pretty much started off with basing it off these ones. And with the new expansion pack, we got some roof details that are kind of like ziggity-zaggedy up, and they're not ziggity-zaggedy, they're kind of like levels or stairs almost going up to like a meeting point. Perfect for this kind of thing. And so I used 2 of them, both different variants, and then I had this third building that I didn't know what to do with, and so you would have seen at the very start I kind of just made my own little roof line using multiple roof pieces and then also a little bump out. But either way, besides the point of moving over and actually getting back to the build, as you can see, I am now coming in and actually figuring out how this open basement is going to look. Now, the way that you do an open basement section like this in the game probably looks a lot trickier than what it actually is, but I promise you it's really simple. The way that I did it is I started off by extending the basement out so it would be kind of meeting comfortably underneath the building where I wanted there to be the staircase. I then deleted the ceiling, which I do re-add back in the ceiling. Don't worry, your Sims have got a ceiling. It was just for the minute. But I deleted the ceiling and then built a wall. When I built that wall, then the ceiling was re-added into the little pottery studio. And then off that, I then just popped down a little staircase, popped a little front door and a window, a few signs and a pole, and yeah, honestly, it's really simple to do open basements. With this one, because I had a bit of a platform kind of cuddling the edge of the buildings, I did have to delete the platform, but then you would have seen I was then able to re-add it back in, and then I placed down some little tables and chairs, also placed down a new food stall, which, like I said, in Stockholm is kind of like a big coffee and pastry scene, even though I think it's more pastries than coffee, but yeah, I felt like it was only essential because I really wanted this build to feel like your Sims were, you know, if they wanted to, living in Stockholm or visiting Stockholm for the day. They might do a day trip, but, you know, I popped down the new food stand at the back of the build and then just plonked down some little tables and chairs. But either way, moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on into the first building, and this one is going to be the tattoo parlour. Now, apologies because I completely forgot to mention up until this point, which it's probably a little bit of a given, but this whole entire build is only using the Sims 4 base game and the new expansion pack, and so when it came around to decorations and also furniture, I was a little bit hesitant at first because I wasn't sure how I'd be able to decorate it and make it feel, you know, like lived in and fully fleshed out, but no, it was actually really good because with the new expansion pack, we have got so many good things in both the debug menu and then also the live edit menu. One of the things, which is going to be one of my new favourite wall decorations, is we've got loads of different bikes and like bike wheels. You can see that I placed one down over here, kind of like behind this little sideboard. There's multiple different bike frames. Some are rusty, some are alright, different colours, but we also have separate wheels, and I basically found them in the debug menu and just plonked them down onto the wall. I will admit, I was a little bit gutted when I saw how many items that we had in just like the main build and buy category, in terms of I was really hoping that we'd get some more posters and wall decorations and just even clutter pieces, but yeah, no, I'm really grateful that the debug menu exists because a lot of the stuff that I'm popping down is from the new expansion pack, but it's just in the debug or the live edit menu. But you can see over here, I placed down one of the new love seats that we got from this DLC. It's kind of like a leathery one, and I like this swatch because the leather looks like it's a little bit more worn, like it looks a little bit weathered. There's some cracks in it. It just adds a little bit more of a realistic touch. But on the left hand side, I've got this new lamp. Not sure how much I'm going to use this lamp, if I'm being honest with you, in my future builds, but for this tattoo parlour, I wanted it to be quite, you know, like cool and trendy, and I just felt like this would be something that you would have in quite a trendy tattoo parlour, and so I plopped that down. And then next to it on the other side, we've got a brand new plant. I think off memory we've got 4 new plant decorations from this DLC, but this one that I've used, I am going to be getting so much use out of this in future builds. We did also get some new curtains from the DLC, which you can see that I've used behind the little love seat. Must admit, I feel like we've got something quite similar with other different DLCs from other packs, but I'm still grateful that we've got them, because the thing is, with these new curtains, they come in multiple different wall heights depending on the height of the walls that you're building on, which some of the other curtains that we have in the game don't necessarily have that, and so it's quite handy. But as you can see, I kind of like finished up that main waiting area. I basically wanted there to be a section where your Sims walk in through the front door, they'd sit down, sign the name in, and I tried to make it look like there was different books for potential tattoo designs, kind of like stacked up on a side table. Now, I will say the tattoo parlour is quite small. However, I don't feel like you really need any more space than what I've like made it to be, because I've been in 2 tattoo parlours before. I haven't got a tattoo myself. I'm absolutely petrified of needles. I wouldn't put myself through it. But I've been with my friends when they've got tattoos previously. And honestly, the tattoo parlours that I have been in are around about a similar size. And honestly, kind of like a similar layout to this one. You know, you walk in, you have like a little waiting area, meeting thing of like, okay, I want to get this design. Can you draw it up for me? Speak to a tattoo artist. And then normally there would either be a door or potentially like a curtain separating when someone is, you know, getting tattooed. But then, yeah, you have like the little tattoo section, and then at the back, you might have a bathroom. And so realistically, I feel like you don't need more space than this. Of course, if you wanted to have more than one tattoo bench, you could definitely delete like this little side table that I'm cluttering up over here and then make it so there is going to be 2 of them. But when it came around to playtesting, yeah, no, my Sims were all right. My Sims were giving tattoos left, right and centre. I gave Nina Caliente a tattoo. Wait, sorry, no, not Nina. Dina. The blonde one. It's always a little bit confusing with them two because you've got Nina Caliente and Dina Caliente and they're sisters, and sometimes I get their names confused. But I gave Dina, the blonde one, gave her a tattoo. Also gave Jeffrey Landgrab a tattoo, and then also a random like generated townie in the world. I must admit, it did take it out from me a little bit that I was in this brand new like Swedish inspired world, and I had Jeffrey and Dina next door. Like it did kind of take it away from me. But like I said at the start, I am playing in an early access version of the game, and so this software is not final. And hopefully by the time the game actually comes out, then it will be coded so you'd have the new townies in the lot. I did see a few of them, but you know, it did just take it away from me that I was seeing Jeffrey and Dina. But again, I am only playing with base game and the new expansion pack, so maybe there's not that many Sims to, you know, venture out into community lots and stuff. But either way, besides the point, you can see that I pretty much just finished up the little tattooing section, and now I've just moved over into one of the bathrooms. Now, this is the tattoo parlour's bathroom. It's probably not essential to have, but for realism purposes, if you was to go and get a tattoo, what about if you needed a wee? Or like, what about if you wanted to go and have a close look in the bathroom mirror at your new tattoo? I did also place down a full-length mirror purposely by the tattoo chair. So, you know, in my head, your Sims get their tattoo artist is standing there awkwardly saying, like, oh, do you like it or not? I did also place one of them down in like the main section, but you know, maybe sometimes if you're someone that says yes, you like it to everything, and maybe you actually don't, and you want to go and get a closer look in the bathroom. I just wanted there to be a separate unit for that. But either way, besides the point, moving over, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next building, which is the Pottery retail section. Now in here already, hopefully you can see quite a big contrast in the way that I've decorated them, just in terms of like the wallpaper and flooring alone. In the tattoo parlour, I went for like dark navy wallpaper with an exposed brick wall, quite cool and trendy, whereas next door, the Pottery studio, is kind of like light and airy and like a pastel pink wallpaper and like wooden floor. I love it in here, but then I also love next doors as well. But for me, I feel like out of this new expansion pack, I'm probably going to be someone that will more so play with pottery rather than tattooing. But then saying that, I might completely change my mind and then might end up having my Sims just all be tattoo artists. But I like the idea of my Sims owning like a little pottery studio. I just think that is so wholesome. And for this one, you can see I went for quite, yeah, like light and airy and quite wholesome decorations. So in here, as soon as you walk in through the front door, we've got some shelving units kind of displaying all the different pottery things that your Sims can make. Now, for the most part, everything that you see on them little like shelving stands, which are new from the DLC, they are all just in the debug menu, but they're things that your Sims can make with a new pottery skill. Over here, I've got this little like counterpiece. This is again new from the DLC, and you can see that I just sized down a kitchen counter and popped on a laptop and then attached a chair to it. If you're curious, that is still functional. Like your Sims can sit on the little laptop there and, you know, play games, chat to their mates, browse the web, do whatever they fancy. The one thing that I kind of struggled with when it came around to doing this build is there wasn't a cash register, because the way that businesses and hobbies work is your Sims don't line up to a cash register to go pay. Your Sims will just kind of get the money reducted, or like they'll get the money added if you've got a customer. And so when it came around to building, I was like, well, I felt really weird like not having a cash register or something to show where the people of some sort of authority will be. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to place down a little laptop. And so yeah, I just merged the laptop into that little like counterpiece. Like I said, it's fully functional. Your Sims, their feet do kind of like clip into it, but honestly, for the most part, it's not the worst thing in the world. And so I did just decide to leave it because it just adds a little bit more gameplay, honestly, if anything. But either way, in that pottery studio, as you would have seen, I just lined up a few more tables with loads of different like pottery things that your Sims can make in the game. And now I've moved on into the basement. One thing I did want to mention before I get on talking about, you know, this little like pottery studio section down here is on the upper level, I completely had a bit of a blank moment and forgot to add in one of the new tapping stations where your Sims are meant to purchase the items. You know how I said we don't have like a cash register from this new DLC? The Sims will kind of like just add money into your account. They are meant to tap this little like board. It basically looks like an iPad on a bit of a stand. I added one into the tattoo parlour, but when I came in and started doing the pottery studio, my mind just went blank, and so I didn't add one. But when I was playtesting, I realised because I needed it to open the business, and so there is one just by the front door. But in here, as you can see, I placed down this new whiteboard item towards the back end of the room, and then on one side over here we've got some more shelving units with some more like debug things that your Sims can make in the game, and then pretty much just in front of the whiteboard we've got 6 different pottery wheels. Now in the version of the game that I'm running, when you enter a brand new save file, there is already a pottery studio. It's called Terra Potter, and that one had 6 different pottery wheels and then 3 different pottery ovens or like kilns or whatever. And so when it came around to building this one, I kind of used that as a bit of a benchmark for myself to figure out, all right, how many pottery wheels versus how many different ovens should I have? And when it came around to playtesting, yeah, no, it was all right. I had 6 members show up for a class. My Sim was teaching them at the front. For reference, if you want to get your Sims to teach a pottery class, you need level 5 of the new pottery skill, which does take its time building up, but I kind of like it when skills, you know, have a little bit of grunt to them. They don't just happen straight away. But yeah, your Sims need level 5 to teach pottery class. You can also teach lectures, I believe, as well on that whiteboard, but I just got my Sim to host a little pottery class, and yeah, 6 members showed up. They all made their little pottery things. None of them put their stuff in the kiln. Maybe they just didn't fancy glazing it, but my Sim did playtest every single kiln, and it's all right. Like they all are functional. They shouldn't cause any problems in your game. But also in this room as well, I realised near towards the end when I was decorating the little bathrooms that it might be quite handy to have some sort of like sink area. Maybe your Sims have got clay all over their hands, or maybe they've been glazed and they've got some like paint going up their arms. And so I thought it might be quite nice in kind of like the middle section of the room towards the staircase to have, yeah, like a little bench where your Sims, after they finish their pottery class, could go over there and wash their hands. But now moving over, as you can see, I finished up the whole like pottery retail small business section, and I've now moved on into the apartment. Now I'm currently coming in and decorating the little like entrance hallway into this apartment, which, can I just say, I'm really happy with the way that this apartment came together. It just ends up being like so kind of like cool and trendy, and I feel like the Sims that live here, they're like really cool Sims. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like they're just such good characters to be around. But when I was doing this hallway, I feel like now is probably a nice time to tell you a little bit more information on the way that small businesses work, because I just end up cluttering like a nice little side table. I pop in some curtains, and I also add in like an extra bike because I'm obsessed with this bike decoration. But if you're curious, this lot is fully functional. Your Sims can have a pottery studio, they can have a pottery retail section, and they can also have a tattoo parlour. But unfortunately, both the tattoo parlour and the second small business, which would be the pottery studio, they can't both be open at the same time. It does make sense for like gameplay, you know, making sure no customers get confused where to go. You know, you've got a pottery class and you end up in the tattoo studio. How do you end up there? It does make sense, but I thought I'd let you know that you can't have both the pottery studio and the tattoo parlour open at the same point. I would love to say that they could do that, and I really wish that it was a feature that was included in this expansion pack, but yeah, like I said, it does kind of make sense for gameplay purposes, just so Sims don't get confused, because it might be a little bit overpowering and also a bit confusing for the game. But it's not the worst thing in the world, because the way that I've figured out it runs best is if you have one business open, and the business that you don't want to be open at that certain point, you can just lock the doors. I know it's probably not the most ideal, and I know if I was you hearing this, I'd be like, oh, really? I know it's not the most ideal, like, I do get that, but unfortunately, it is just the way that this expansion pack is kind of made. And like I said, it does kind of make sense in a way. But yeah, the best way that I found that I could have my Sims have both a pottery studio and a tattoo parlour, because you can still have multiple businesses on one lot. Don't take that wrong. You can still have, say, for example, a gym and then also, I don't know, a cafe and then also a library. You can still have all of them different businesses on the one lot. They just can't all be open at the same point. The way that I just found, works best for gameplay when I was playtesting is, say, for example, I would have the pottery studio open, or like the pottery retail section open, and Sims would come in, they would buy all the different decorations, they would pop downstairs, they'd maybe take a class in learning pottery and, pop their stuff in the kiln and do all that kind of stuff. That would be alright. And then, end of the day, close that business, open up the tattoo parlour, and then the tattoo people, not the tattoo people, but people that wanted to get a tattoo would then start rolling in and then, ask for a tattoo and stuff like that. So it does work, and realistically thinking about it, there is another workaround. If you wanted to, instead of having multiple different small businesses with their own individual names, descriptions and activities, you could just have like one mega business. So the way that I did it with playtesting is I wanted to have two separate businesses. They both got their own names, they both got their own icons, both got their own activities for customers to do. But realistically, if you wanted to, you could have it so you've got just one business but combine all the different activities. So instead of having clay making or browsing items attached to the pottery business and then getting tattooed or browse tattoo things for the tattoo business, you could then just have one master business that has both of them activities combined. Does that make sense? Really hope you're following along with me, but there is ways around it. Unfortunately, you can't just have two small businesses open at one point, but yeah, you can either lock the doors if you fancy, if you want to have, customers go to one certain section and then another section at a different point in the day. Or if you wanted to, you could just create one main business instead of having multiple, and then combine all the different activities that you want Sims to do in both venues into one. I think off memory you can have up to 5 different activities, so it is a possibility. You could just run this whole entire lot as one small business, and some of the activities being getting tattooed and the other one be making pottery. So then both different areas are fulfilled and they have customers, but then the profits will just go to one main business. I really hope that was easy enough to follow along with. But at the end of the day, if I was you watching this video and I knew that information, I'd want me to tell you, I just as a little bit of a heads up, because I don't know if you're going to get your hands on the expansion pack. That might be a game-changing thing for you, but I did just kind of want to give you like a little bit of an example of how you can actually have the businesses both run on one lot. It's just either a case of locking the doors or simply just combining the two businesses into one. But I mean, to be fair, thinking about it, you probably don't even have to lock the doors. You could just leave them open. Sims just, they won't go into, say for example, when I was playtesting, when I was doing the pottery section, Sims weren't really going into the tattoo parlour before I locked the doors. They were just, staying around the pottery section. So you don't have to go through the faff of locking the doors. But yeah, I did just want to let you know, it's really not the worst thing in the world. I really wish it was a feature where you could have 2 different small businesses open. But it's not the worst thing in the world, because like I said, you can just combine all the different activities into one. And if you wanted to, you could just have, say for example, a gym, a library, I don't know, a spa, them kind of things. You could build the different buildings and then just have all the activities attached to one business. But yeah, I just wanted to give you the heads up, do you know what I mean? But either way, regardless, besides the point, moving over, as you can see, I've actually came in and started cluttering up the main living room for this apartment. I love this living room so much, and I think a reason why I love it so much is because there is so many windows letting in so much natural daylight, and kind of like the sunshine is kind of like reflecting onto both the furniture but then also the floor as well. So in here I use 2 of the new love seats alongside with a matching armchair. I am a bit gutted, I will admit, that we didn't once again get a 3-seater sofa in like a living room set, because the Sims team do this thing where they'll give us a lovely new love seat or a lovely new armchair, won't give us a matching 3-tile one, or sometimes they'll give us a 3-tile sofa but no matching armchair or no matching love seat. It's really frustrating. But for this lounge room, in all fairness, it did kind of work out because we were always a little bit squished for space. But in here, I used the 2 different new love seats. One of them's kind of got like a little blanket or a throw or something, really lovely. Put that kind of on the back wall, and then next to it, I placed down some of the new bookcases that we got from this DLC. We did get 3 bookcases, but it's pretty much the same bookcase, just different variants of how the books are laid out inside of them. But I placed them down into the lounge room. Also ended up placing down like a nice little side table and a radio, and then in the middle of the room I placed down the new rug that we got from this expansion pack. We only got 1 new rug, but it's one of them ones that's kind of got like secret swatches, because the default one is like really loud and layering. It's got loads of different patterns on it, but if you actually scroll through all the different colour variants, there is a couple of just nice neutral swatches, which I really appreciate a neutral rug, because although having some really colourful rugs is nice in some situations, in other situations it's just nice to have like a nice beige rug in it. And so I use a new rug in the middle of the room. But now moving on, as you can see, I've now moved over into the kitchen. So in here I use these base game counters. We didn't get a new kitchen set from this DLC, but I noticed that this base game tile that I've used on the wall is kind of perfect for this kind of idea of like a Stockholm apartment or something. And so I did use this new-ish base game wallpaper, and then in the little kitchen section I tried to be very conscious to have a coffee section as well as somewhere for your Sims to have like pretend pastries or something, because like I said, I recently went to Stockholm and I noticed that pastries was a big thing. Like there is so many little cafes that do so many good pastries that you can buy. And so when it came around to doing the kitchen, I was thinking that the Sims that live here, they love a pastry, they love a cup of coffee in the morning. And so I placed down some like little cake stands as decoration. Unfortunately, we don't have pastry decorations in the game, and so they were kind of like the next thing that I could think of. But over here, this is something that I wanted to speak about, because you see on the counter we've got this little cookbook. This is a new gameplay feature of the Businesses and Hobbies expansion pack, where basically your Sims can create family recipes. Must admit, was a bit unexpected. I did not know that that was going to be a feature in this new expansion pack. Here for it, because new gameplay opportunity. If you've got a legacy family, that would be lovely. But a bit random, I must admit. But basically the way that it works is your Sims can create a family recipe and basically modify pre-existing things in the game. So the way that I tested this out to see, what this is all about, because honestly I placed it down and I just thought it was going to be a cookbook, which by the way it is. Your Sims can just click on that cookbook and it will just function like a regular cookbook. But with the expansion pack, there's kind of like a new family recipe feature added to it, which when you create a family recipe, you take a pre-existing thing that is already in the game. When I was playtesting, I tested out vanilla cupcakes because I thought for visual purposes it might be quite handy if I had like a beige background. But then I got to choose the different ingredients to kind of modify this recipe to have. And so I chose vanilla cupcakes and then made it so kind of like the secret ingredient is what they call it, would be cherries. But then alongside that, you can give it a special touch, which is basically like a moodlet attached to the item when your Sims would eat it. So I chose a classic vanilla cupcake recipe because, like I said, it's kind of like beigey cream. Like if I was going to add a secret ingredient to it, I would hopefully be able to see it because it's not like a dark recipe, or you know what I mean, like it doesn't look dark when your Sims cook it. And so I chose it classic vanilla cupcakes, and then I made it so the secret ingredient was going to be cherries, and then from that I could then add a moodlet to how your Sims would kind of react when they eat it. I will say, as a heads up, and I can only say for the vanilla cupcakes, I didn't notice any visual differences. I was kind of expecting that there would be like little, red dots to indicate that there was cherries on the cupcakes. Didn't make any visual differences, but with like the moodlet thing, you can make it so this family recipe could become comfort food, or it could be a heartbreak healer, or it could be a moodlet booster. There's all these different things you can have attached to loads of different family recipes. But then alongside of that, your Sims can teach each other family recipes, which is kind of like a nice little touch. Like I said, honestly, I didn't expect that from the expansion pack. I just thought, nice little cookbook, shove it in the corner, came around to playtesting. No, it's actually got some gameplay attached to it. Maybe I just completely missed it, but I didn't see that in the trailer for this new expansion pack. But yeah, I just thought I'd give you a little heads up that cookbook, now your Sims can make family recipes. But either way, moving over, besides the point, as you can see, I've now moved on to the upstairs portion. I'm currently coming in and decorating one of the bedrooms. Now the thing is, I did actually have a storyline that I was building toward when I was furnishing and building this lot, but where I've been given early access for, which again, I'm so grateful that the Sims team gave me early access to this expansion pack. I kind of wanted to let you know about different gameplay features and the way that I imagine that things would work, and I think the best way for gameplay. Like, I've been trying to tell you as much information as I could possible, just so you could kind of get a grasp on this expansion pack and whether or not you fancy picking it up yourself. That we're now like 33 minutes into the video, and I'm yet to tell you about the storyline that I was kind of decorating this build towards. But pretty much the idea that I had was a set of parents live here with their teenager. I was personally thinking a teenage daughter, but of course it could be anyone. But I was thinking one of the parents owns the tattoo parlour and has late opening hours, whereas the other parent owns the pottery studio and is open in the day. And basically the idea that I had is both parents are kind of in competition with each other because they both want to leave the legacy of their small business to the teenager, which, by the way, if you aren't aware, you can do that with the new expansion pack. Someone could own it and then they could transfer almost like the ownership of the small business to someone that they know, or like a family member or something. And you can also employ your family members to work at your small business, because with like a restaurant, or with like a retail store with the get to work expansion pack, you kind of have your household own something, but everyone in the household owns it. The way that small businesses work is, say for example, one of the parents can own the tattoo parlour, the other parent ain't got anything to do with it, like they're completely separate, they've got their own thing going on. And so the way that this expansion works, the way that this expansion pack works is, if you want to, you can kind of like transfer the ownership of the business. And I had in my head that, we've got these two parents with completely different interests. One's into pottery and one's into putting ink into someone's skin, and they want to leave the legacy of their small business that they've probably worked really hard to get to a good reputation to their teenager. But the teenager is kind of in like two minds of like, all right, which one should I go towards? And I mean, realistically, you probably could have it so the teenager could end up having both businesses. But I kind of like the idea for two different Sims with different personalities, with different small businesses, and they're just really proud of their little legacy, and now they're kind of in competition with their partner because they don't know who else to leave it to. Maybe they end up having another kid, and then that will kind of solve their problems. But I liked that idea, and so you would have seen I decorated kind of like a teenagery kind of bedroom. It doesn't have to be for a teenager. You could just have, maybe if you don't want to have a small family live here, you could have two Sims that are roommates, and one could have the pottery section and then the other one could have a tattoo parlour. But I tried to decorate it to be a little bit more geared towards teenager. And then this bedroom over here, this is kind of like the parents' bedroom. I did use the new bed that we got from this expansion pack, which is lovely, and I'm going to be using this new bed in so many different future builds because it comes in some lovely default swatches. There's no like funky patterns or anything. It's a lovely little headboard, got a nice little throw blanket on the end, beautiful, going to use it all the time. But yeah, this is kind of like the little section for the parents. They do have an ensuite bathroom as well as kind of like a walk-in wardrobe, but then outside of their bedroom, they kind of have like this second lounge space. I popped in this new fireplace into this room because I really wanted to use it because it's new with the expansion pack and it's really beautiful. And so I popped it into this room. Not sure if it makes too much sense, but it's just like a new sparkly item that I wanted to play around with. But other than that, I'm actually going to pretty much go around this room, finish it off by making some final touches, and that is pretty much it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. I unfortunately cannot upload this build to the gallery yet, just because where I was kindly given early access to this DLC, one, there's not a gallery version, and two, I'm going to wait until the expansion pack comes out, and so I really hope you don't mind, but it will be on the gallery once the DLC is, available for everyone to download. But other than that, I did just want to say again another thank you to EA for gifting me a copy of this expansion pack early so I could do a build with it and just test it out and just test the waters with it. And so yeah, a massive thank you to EA for that. But other than that, if you guys do enjoy my content, then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.